Hey everyone, welcome back to Rip City Rundown, and today we will be discussing the new signing press conference, the welcome press conference, really the first time we got to hear Gary Payton II, Jerami Grant, the rest of the new signings, and Joe Cronin all together at the press conference. Some would say it's a very exciting day for Blazer fans. We always look forward to what Cronin and the players have to say. Most of them seem to be excited to be in Portland. Cole, what were your initial thoughts?
I thought it was just cool to see new signings in the building that are bigger names than others. You know, past off seasons, we brought in guys like last year it was Cody Zeller and Ben McLemore. Two guys that aren't going to get much rotational minutes if you're contending for a championship team. But we bring in Gary Payton II and Jerami Grant. It's just like, it just feels good to have new faces in there that are going to contribute from day one.
Yeah, I think the vibes are really good in the press conference. There wasn't really any awkward situations. Everyone felt happy. It was overall just a good press conference.
I would argue that there was a slight awkward situation. Okay. Not necessarily awkward, but toward the ends of the press conference, we'll get into it later in the video, but we addressed needs. Joe Cronin answered, and some people are disappointed and skeptical of the answers he gave.
Yeah, a few quotes. One quote in particular. Joe Cronin was talking about the lack of size or the multitude of guards on the roster. He said, "The roster is probably not perfect as far as distribution. We'll continue to tinker with that. We're not by any means worried about lack of size." Now, I don't mind this quote. Obviously, he doesn't want to offend the new signings by saying this lineup sucks. We're not perfect. So he said probably not perfect. In the back of his head, Joe Cronin knows that this team's probably not contending for a championship right now. Let's just be honest. I am a little concerned when he says we're not worried about a lack of size because, let's be honest, the amount of guards on this team, it's a lot.
I feel like as a general manager, you kind of have to say that because you want, obviously, your guys to be happy with you and everything and not, get them on the wrong foot to start things off with your relationship with them. But also, I think it's important to, motivate the fans that, you're not done making moves. You're still going to be aggressive. You're still trying to make this team better because the reality is there's no perfect team. You can always make a basketball team better than it is.
Yeah, when it comes to that lack of size quote, you bring back your backup center, which is Drew Eubanks. And everyone, when you think of the lack of size, you're not really thinking of Drew Eubanks as helping that size because in reality, he's probably not going to play that many minutes. So I don't think Joe Cronin's just going to say, yeah, we don't have a backup center right now because, Drew Eubanks probably thinks he's the backup center. But I am personally also a little nervous about the lack of size. We're looking at guys. We brought Gary Payton II. He's 6'3". He's a guard, but he plays bigger than he is. But that lack of bigs, the too many guards in the rotation is something that he did address, and he didn't really address it too well in my opinion.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to say about Joe Cronin and the whole GM kind of persona that Cronin and Neil O'Shea honestly put on during these press conferences, as I know that fans are a little skeptical now because we did have Neil O'Shea sit up there for 10 plus years and say these same quotes, and we continuously get the 8 seed, get the 9 seed. So fans are definitely skeptical. I think it's fair to question Joe Cronin here. To your point, he kind of has to say these things, though. If as a GM, you're not going to go up there and be like, yeah, the moves I made sucked. You're not going to say that.
Yeah.
He's going to trust in himself, but as fans, we have every right to be skeptical.
Yeah, I think I'm just happy about, we got 3 players from Oregon who are related to Portland. We got Jerami Grant, who grew up in Portland. We got Gary Payton, who went to Oregon State. And then we have Drew Eubanks. So it's just great to see all these players that come from Oregon.
Yeah, Drew Eubanks mentioned that. He said, it's really, when talking about playing with Gary Payton again, he said it's really cool. We did something special in Corvallis when we went to the tournament. We're trying to do something special here too. So I think that's just cool to see the relationships we're bringing in with the Portland or Oregon on the Oregon side. And then obviously Jerami Grant grew up in Portland, and then he has that relationship with Dame too. He said me and Dame got close at Team USA. I definitely thought it was a possibility. Happy to be here and to be part of this.
Yeah, I think from a player standpoint, just as I was literally thinking about this as you guys were talking, but I think people talking about lack of size on this team might be a little overrated just because 2 of our guards and Gary Payton II and Josh Hart are big guards. They can play up. Obviously, we have Damon Ant, Nas, Jerami Grant, and Nurk. He's the Bosnian beast. He's 7 feet tall. He's 290. So we don't lack size at center. I think people question the depth though.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The depth when it comes to the height and the length is not really there. You're not going to have that big man coming off the bench that's really going to change the game. Not many teams have that, but if you want to be a championship team, you want to have a solid stable of big men. And we really just have 2 true big bruisers, and I wouldn't even call Drew Eubanks a bruiser here.
Yeah, I feel like everyone is really motivated, which is great. We got Anfernee Simons, the pressure's on with his big contract. We have Gary Payton. Obviously, he's going to have a soft spot for Golden State winning a championship there, and going from the G League to an actual NBA player through that team. But they basically threw him under the bus in a way. Like we don't want you anymore, Gary Payton. So I think a lot of people on our team are motivated, which is great through money and just chemistry and just overall.
Yeah, I think chemistry is a big thing because obviously when Dame is your leader, he's going to motivate his players. And we saw Jerami Grant talk about Dame and Jerami Grant are close from Team USA. Dame and Gary Payton II have been close. Gary Payton Sr. has been Dame's mentor for a while. So, it's kind of cool to see kind of the chemistry already forming. Of course, we've got to see it translate to the basketball court, but motivation and chemistry is great right now.
One of my favorite moments from the press conference that kind of comes with that chemistry thing is when they asked Nurk about that photo of Josh Hart and him talking to Jerami Grant when they played each other back in March. And he was like, they were asking, what did he say to him? And he said, I told him to get his ass to Portland, straight up. And, Nurk is funny when he says those things. But I just thought that's funny because, they obviously really love Jerami Grant already, given the fact that they've kind of been manifesting this since the trade deadline pretty much.
Yeah, we've made a lot of moves so far, but what do you guys think? Like, how aggressive do you think we will continue going into the summer? Like, do you think there will be any more big moves to be made? Because we got some of these signings locked up, but we have Joe Cronin saying, hey, we might want to make the team a little better, maybe hinting on that.
I think depending on how you define big move, I can see us going after MLE type money, vet min type money, like 3 or 4 that can offer minutes. Kind of like a Melo, like someone who's obviously better on the defensive end, but someone like who would command like that little amount of money, but could still contribute to the team. Like I could see a little move like that. I don't see Kevin Durant getting traded to Portland right now or ever. I don't see any really true difference makers. I think right now this Joe Cronin is going to lay low, honestly.
Yeah, I think the key is none of these players that are in the press conference now that they're officially signed, they can't be moved. So you're not going to see a guy like Simons get moved in a Durant trade. So the KD rumors are pretty much off the table. I think the most realistic thing is now that we waived Bledsoe, that opened up it was like around $4.5 million, which is obviously more than a minimum, but less than an MLE. So we can still bring in a guy for that type of money, and we've seen contracts in the past that like you can get a solid guy for only $4 million. So I think the most likely thing is obviously we use that. Even though Joe Cronin says we're still looking at the trade market, I think that ship has sailed. I think we pretty much are. This is the team we're going to have.
Yeah, I'm just really excited after this press conference and everything. Because last year it was Neil Shea with Cody Zeller and Ben McLemore. No shade to them, but let's be honest, this is definitely a more attractive squad going to the season to start.
Yeah, and I think some people, especially on social media, Blazer fans kind of online are like, we didn't make a lot of moves. It's like, that's fine, but we made quality moves. Like Gary Payton II and Jerami Grant are instant contributors. Like those two alone outdo signing Cody Zeller, Ben McLemore, Enes Kanter Freedom, Carmelo Anthony, like all those guys. Like these guys are going to contribute much more than probably all the signings Neil Shea had done around the edges.
Okay, my final question before we wrap this up is, since the LaMarcus Aldridge era, so since 2015, where do you rank this offseason among past off seasons?
Honestly, I'm probably going to take this year because just going through the years, the 2016 debacle in the summer where we're signing Evan Turner and Allen Crabbe for $75 million. That just immediately gets cut.
Yeah.
You can't do the year where we signed Whiteside. That might have been the worst move we could have possibly did ever. We literally traded a first and Harkless for him? It was
Myers
Harkless.
Leonard.
Myers Leonard, Harkless, and a first maybe for Whiteside, and now Whiteside's on a vet min with the Kings. Horrible business.
Horrible.
Yeah, so I'm taking this year. I honestly am.
I'm gonna have to agree. I think this is it's the best. We've had I guess good moves like in the middle of the season, but in terms of just after the off season and where we are right now, July, the middle of free agency, I'm gonna say this is the best we've done since that LA era.
Yeah, I would agree. This is the first offseason, I think, where we haven't had a bad move. All the moves are solid moves that are making the team better in a certain way.
Yeah. So that's all we got for this video. Obviously, it was good to hear the new signings, good to hear Joe Cronin in front of the mic. Obviously, expectations are very high. Blazer fans love them some Blazer basketball, and we expect the very best from the team. So yeah, we'll see you next time.